Hello, everybody, and welcome today. I am joined by Barlow once again, and we are doing another Barlow's 5. I think I'm getting tricked. Well,
Five-ish.
yeah, I think
There's
I'm getting
5
tricked.
here.
Yeah, but I think there's stuff hiding off camera. I think I'm about to get. I'm bamboozled. I think I'm getting bamboozled here.
But it's in a good way.
You put
You're gonna
exactly 5 on the table. It's like, oh no, it's totally a Barlow's 5. We gotta change the name of it. I don't know what we're gonna change the name to, but it's Barlow's.
Well, there's top 5-ish.
5. We've
Five-ish?
done the 5-ish, yeah. But at this point, we're like, Barlow's
Those top games of this.
top games, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, it's not really a list, though. We're not counting
Right.
down or anything.
Right.
It's just games that with a theme to them, right?
And they're ones that I really like. I mean, these are all ones that I have played and enjoy, and want to share with people because I think they're good.
They're fun games. Now,
yeah.
what is the theme today?
These are my top 5 games, card games that are not collectible card games.
5 games that are not collectible.
Yes.
It's not top 5.
That's right.
Because we don't rank them.
That's right.
But there are at least 5.
Yes.
Barlow's at least 5.
At least 5. That's right. At least 5 card games that are not collectible.
That are not collectible.
I've tried to curate some games here that kind of give a feel of a lot of different stuff here because some people like some of the feel of deck building. Like they like putting together a deck. Like Magic decks, and they like doing that. But there's not a lot of games out there that aren't collectible card games that do that. Well, we've got one. There's the classic deck building where you have to play cards and collect them in. We've got one of the very first iterations of that. One of the best iterations of that.
Right.
Not the first, but one of the very first. There are the immersive adventure kind of card games. There are card games where you get to play a character. So we've got examples across the board, and we can talk about them.
And you played all these,
Yes,
right? So
yes,
you can
I've played all of
vouch.
them.
These
Yep.
are ones that he enjoys. He's actually played
They're great games.
and enjoys them all. Okay,
Absolutely.
Where would you like to start?
Let's start with this. So this is the Civil War battles of the Versus System 2-player card game. So as I mentioned earlier, it's not a collectible card game, but it plays similar to like a collectible card game. In this game, you build a deck. So you design your deck. The cards that you can use are heroes and powers and actions and things that you put together in your deck. And it's a heads up, one-on-one game where you're basically trying to defeat your opponent. In reducing their health values of their characters. The cool thing about this game is that you get the deck design element because you get to choose where you want, but the game only allows you to have 4 of any one card. All of the expansions have 4 of the cards that you get. So you buy an expansion, you don't have to go out and get collectibles. Like if you want, Super Punch is your card, you got 4 of them when you buy it. The core set, the starter set, has, I forget how many different heroes and character types, but it's enough to build multiple decks with, so you can play right out of the box with multiple decks. The reason I like the game is because it definitely has, it's a remake of an older game by a different company, Versus System, and this is when Upper Deck just, kind of relaunched it and re-released it as the Marvel series. If you like the old game from a number of years ago, this has a very, very similar play style. If you like the whole, deck building, element where you're designing a deck, but you don't want to have to chase, $10 cards on eBay or, trade with your friends, this is the perfect kind of game for you. And it's a lot of fun. There's another Marvel card game that we're going to talk about that I think we've spoken with before that has a very different feel. This, you are not playing a hero. It doesn't feel like, immersive that way. This is more of a top-down, kind of a tactical playing cards back and forth kind of game. It's not a, cooperative, I'm going to be Iron Man tonight. It's not that kind of game.
Okay, now with the Versus system, is it just Marvel or do they have others?
No, Versus has a ton of different properties in this. Now, so way back in the day, in the older system, there were both DC and Marvel. And now, to my knowledge, there's no DC for Versus, but there are other properties like Aliens, a variety of different.
Now, can you mix them?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
so everything can mix.
Yep,
Their decks
absolutely.
can just mix with each
Yep,
other.
you can mix them. You can play those. So there's a lot of different ones and different sizes of expansions too. There's some that have 200 card expansions. There's some that are 50 card expansions. So I mean, or 40 card, whatever it is. So it's all different sizes, depending on what you're looking for. And there are a bunch of expansions at this point out for the game. It's a nice head-to-head, kind of let's compete. I think one of my buddies and I, kind of got into it when it first came out because we really, liked the idea of playing something where we could sit down and design a deck and see who could come up with a better deck. But we didn't want to have to go and
chase cards.
Yeah, and it was so. I mean, we really kind of I think fell into it and had a really good time with it up front. So if that's the kind of thing you're into, I definitely encourage you to try it out because it's great fun.
Cool.
So let's talk Marvel again. This is an expansion for Marvel Champions. Marvel Champions is a card game where you cooperate with. You can play one player, or you can play.
And they do make a core set for it. We just have the expansion.
That's
here,
right.
But they have it's 2-player core set. Right?
That's right. It's a 2-player core set. I think you can play up to 4 or 5. I think it's up to 4
in the actual core set.
Yeah, and with that, you're playing against the game. So, like some of the other games we're going to talk about, there's a villain, and you choose the villain. The villain has a scheme and has a plan, and you have to kind of thwart that villain as you go through it. So, again, when you buy the core box, it has all the cards that you're going to need. You can switch around some of the cards for your heroes. So, like, you might be able to change, certain powers that one of your characters has, or cards that trade as long as they are eligible to go in that hero's card set. This one is Valkyrie, and what I can say about all of the character expansions for this game is this is very much I'm going to immerse myself in this hero. When you pick a hero deck, you feel like they're doing things that hero is going to do. Like, for example, you have an alter ego and you have your superhero name. Well, to fight the scheme, you usually have to be your alter ego. Whereas to fight the villain, you have to be your superhero. So, like, for example, Black Widow is really good at the alter ego stuff, but she doesn't have superpowers, so she's not as a capable combatant as, like, the Hulk, for example. The Hulk, he's not going to, be as good at doing the scheming thing. So it's a really interesting balance of the way the characters play it. It feels like the characters in the game. So
now, is this a co-op game, or
yes.
is it you play against your opponent?
No, it's co-op.
It's co-op.
So you are cooperatively playing against the game, the villain card in the scheme, and you after your turn you flip so many cards and reveal another piece in the scheme. A certain thing has happened throughout the game. That's how it controls it. So it's very prescribed that way, but it doesn't feel like, because a lot of those games, it feels like we've talked about before. You co-op, you can kind of know what's going to happen. You can play against the game, and you can work together. This is not that kind of a game. This is one where it rewards that, and it feels like that's part of the design of the game. It's not something where zombie side. Oh, I'm going to make noise over here so you guys can go find the treasure over there. No, this is meant to be played where you're trying to work together, where what your the other players are doing, and you strategize out. Okay, here's how we're going to, because you have to take down the villain.
Take down the villain.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah,
cool,
super fun. The next one that I've got here is another superhero game.
Staying with the superheroes.
Yep. So this is the DC deck building game. This is one of the first deck building games that I played. It's not the first that's been around. Obviously, they've been around for a long time. As far as a deck building game, you start with a small deck, and it generates resources that you use to purchase other resources to make your deck stronger throughout the game. So when we talk about deck building, you're not building a deck before the game. Everybody starts with the same deck. You're building the deck as you go throughout the game. And part of what this game is very simple. There's two types of resources. There's combat power and purchase power. I think this only has the purchase power piece to it, so it's very simple, very straightforward. You defeat villains, and you add them to your deck, and they give you special abilities. And this is a competitive game because you all have to work together to defeat the stack of villains, but you earn victory points as you go through it. So at the end, whoever's earned the most, you're not going to be fighting the other players. You're fighting the villains.
So you're kind of helping fight the villains, but you have to win at the same time.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly that. And the objective is, that's just really the stack of villains is just how you tell when the game ends. because the cards that you buy are going to have victory points to them. The cards that you defeat are going to have victory points. So that's you want to continue to buy and acquire good cards that actually work together in your deck, and you'll be able to tell right away which ones work together. Like, for example, Batman, you play a hero, by the way. You choose a hero, and that hero has some kind of special ability. So, like, for example, Batman, gadgets are his things, right? So if there's equipment cards, there's which, like, this would be an equipment card, there's hero cards, there's villain cards, there's power cards. So the Batman character, it coordinates very well with equipment cards.
Equipment cards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas, like, the Superman character would coordinate very well with power cards.
Okay.
And then, of course, heroes work with other hero cards work with generally across the board, most of them well. So really, really fun game. What I like about this is that it doesn't take a terribly long time to play.
I was going to ask, how long do you think it takes?
Depending on the number of players. If you've got 2 players, it's going to be about 30 minutes. And I think you can play like up to 5 players. If you have 5 players, it's going to take you an hour. I mean, it'll take you an hour with 5 players. But the other thing is it's eminently replayable, because every time you play through it, it's just a fast, super easy to learn game. You're always seeing new cards, and then once you see the cards out there, you know what you want to look for, you know what you want to find, and purchase off the off the lineup next time. So super fun game. And there's also, Cryptozoic makes this. They use this engine in, oh my goodness, so many other deck building games too. There's ones where instead of being the heroes, you can play the villains.
There's like a Teen Titan one, I think. Yeah, there's all kinds of expansions.
Yes, absolutely. There's Attack on Titan. There's Lord of the Rings. They have, so there's all kinds of properties that use this same engine, which I think they call it the Cerberus engine is what I think it's called. But, eminently replayable just from the one box.
So if you know how to play this game, say the DC, you can pick the Lord of the Rings one.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
the exact same engine. So
Exactly.
you just know how to play. Okay.
Got it. Nice. Exactly that. Except instead of, fighting Darkseid, you're going to be fighting Sauron.
All right.
Absolutely that.
All right, we talked about these.
So now I want to talk about, and I've spoken about this game. Let's do this
Arkham
one.
Warm card game? Yeah, we've
So,
talked about this a couple times.
I like this game because it's not your typical, kind of heads up game. You're playing cooperatively. You're trying to, you're an investigator, and as you play, your deck is what makes up your investigator, and you're trying to solve mysteries as you go through. The card game itself lays out those mysteries for you, and you have to, travel, and you have to figure out what's going on. It feels very much like a mystery solving kind of game, So I mean, it captures that element really, really well. And of course, there's terrible, scary things behind the corners that will drive you nuts, and it'll make you crazy.
And all that, so
yeah. So I mean, if you like that stuff, which I obviously do, I mean, it's definitely going to get you there. This is the revised set that came out not long ago. They just re-released it this past year, and it's got all of the starting cards that you need from the deck. If you've already got all the stuff, you don't need this new this, because it's not truly a second edition. It's not a revised edition. It's just a revised starter box.
The starter box.
Yeah. So
if you have all the old cards, you can play with it.
You got it. Exactly. So again, super fun, super immersive. Your deck really feels like what your hero does. Like, there's a martial artist investigator, and he's going to be good at knocking out bad guys, and there's another one that's like a spy that's going to be good at sneaking around and doing stuff. And you've got like a librarian that's really good at learning things and fighting. So I think it does a good job of capturing that feel of different character types. And you're not you're not heroes. You are investigators trying to solve something before the game can
get out of hand.
Yeah, before it can murder you, basically. It's pretty good. Yeah.
And there's plenty of expansions too.
Tons.
Released tons of expansions.
Tons. And that's the other thing too, is that all the expansions tell stories. They're all stories within the Cthulhu world.
That's one thing with the majority of these that we've talked about. There are expansions, a lot of expansions. So if you enjoy,
and that's the thing. So if you dig into something, you like it, you can like it even more.
You keep getting stuff. All right.
Well,
so we're into Barlow's Rider here, where he gets to talk about Lord of the Rings once per video.
I love the Lord of the Rings. I really love the Lord of the Rings. So this is similar to the Arkham Horror game that we just talked about. This is a relaunch of the core set of the Lord of the Rings living card game. Again, it's not collectible. You buy the core set, any of the expansions, got all the cards you need. With this, you are, you have a deck of heroes. Like you've got characters in front of you that are, your fellowship basically. That's who you play, is your fellowship, and you are trying to go into, wherever. I mean, you probably aren't going into Mordor day one. You're probably, going as you go, and your deck changes. Your characters, you get more, cards and things as you go, but it's a story-driven game, much like the Arkham Horror game talks about, investigating and trying to solve mysteries, like you're trying to figure out what's going on in the mystery. This, you are trying to journey into someplace and, either overcome an obstacle, fight a bad guy, find a treasure, something like that. And so all of those elements of the game all those elements of the story are represented in this card game. So it feels very much like a Lord of the Rings adventure.
Okay.
I mean, if you're a fan of Lord of the Rings, you get your fellowship together and you go off into a scary place. Yeah, you're going on an adventure. That's right. You're gonna go somewhere scary and you're gonna fight some bad guys and hopefully you're gonna live and you're gonna come out on the other side, as a hero. So that's very much what this.
And this is a co-op game, right?
Yes, it is. It's co-op. There are, you can play kind of competitively, but I think those are more optional rules. The game is clearly designed from the ground up as co-op.
As co-op.
That's all.
Is this a revised edition or? Or is it like the Arkham Horror?
Exactly like the Arkham Horror. The cards are the same cards. They have just revised the printing of this so that they include more of the components, like some cards that came out in some of the expansions, like, oh, this would be good for inclusion in the core set. They may added it there. If you have the original core set,
you're good to go.
You're good. So it's not like it's anything new. This is really just a re-release for someone who hasn't played the game before and wants to get into the game again.
So just get this core set.
Exactly. So that's why it's a good time to get into both of those games, the Arkham Horror and the Lord of the Rings.
Because they just came out, the revised.
Just came out. Exactly.
All right.
So those were 5.
So that is Barlow's top 5. Barlow's 5.
Well, I want to give
Thanks for hanging out.
But wait, there's more.
But wait.
And these are some that I wanted to give honorable mention to because I know we've talked about them before.
You've talked about Schotten Totten a lot.
I love this game. It is a card game. It is basically 3-card poker along 9 different fronts. And you play, it's super fast playing, one-on-one, heads up, that's all it plays. And I'm sure if you've watched this, you've probably seen another video about this.
I think it's been like 3 or 4 times. So you have a very high opinion of this game.
If you don't own and play this game, you should go out and buy it immediately. It is a great game.
The Schotten Totten.
Yes.
That's the name of the game by Yellow.
Super fun. And as far as other card games that are non-collectible, same here. Chrononauts, and my favorite version of Chrononauts, Back to the Future. This is where you lay out a board, a grid of cards that represents the timeline, and you are traveling in and around the timeline to make things happen.
Is this Looney Labs? Who does Chrononauts?
No, Chrononauts is done by, it is Looney Labs. Oh my goodness. You're right. You nailed it. Chrononauts. Looney Labs did it. So, again, you have a character card that has basically your win objectives, like what things you have to have in history. So you have to go back and change certain things in history before other things can change. And when you change something in the past, it affects other things down line in the future. So this is more of a classic history version, Chrononauts. And this
Back to the Future is the movie Back to the Future, right? Yeah. You're Marty McFly.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of the trilogy because it captures all of them.
Oh, it's all of them?
Yeah, so I mean, if you're a fan of Back to the Future like me,
this is the one to go with.
Yeah, and honestly, had I known that this version was, I probably never would have, which is sad because this is a great game and it's a great version of it. But had I known that this was out, I probably never would have bought this. I would have just bought this.
If people come over and they're like, "Hey, let's play Chrononauts," you just grab Back to the Future set on the table.
That's
You're
the
just like, "Oh, okay, that's what you meant."
Yeah,
right?
that's the one. Oh, you want real history? No, sorry.
No, sorry. We're doing Back to the Future.
So those are my honorable mentions. But wait, there's more.
There's more.
So,
I just said I'm getting fooled.
So these are. I'm gonna call it a stretch. These are card games, and I'm going to make my argument as to why they're card games.
There's one over there. I'm like,
Yeah.
is it a card game?
So if you've played Splendor, this is a where you're gathering gems and you're spending gems to buy cards, and you have collections of cards. So while
Splendor's a highly popular game.
Yes.
Like
this is the Marvel version of it. So I mean, if you like Infinity Stones and Thanos, you'll like this version.
Is it played exactly like the
identically?
original one? Identically. Okay.
Yeah, there is a variant in there that lets you when you collect the all the stones to complete the end version of the game. But yeah, it's exactly the same mechanic where you spend the tokens and the cards that you have in front of you generate your purchase ability with the tokens, and you're trading them in. So it's exactly that same thing. I argue that this is a card game, not because you're building a deck and you're shuffling from them, but because similar to some of the other games that we've talked about, you're trying to choose and collect things, and as you're pulling them towards you, that collection, or it's not truly trick taking, but it's as you're trying to build up your your group of gems in front of you, you have to choose and select which ones you go after. There's a lot of strategy element to that, and I feel like that is similar to a deck building game for me. So when I play a deck building game, someone says, "Oh, let's play a deck building game," I always throw out Splendor. And they're like, "That's not a deck building game." Oh, but it is, because let me show you how. Because you've got these nice poker chips, you start pulling that in. So that's why I argue, and you can disagree. If you disagree with me, let us know. That this is a non-collectible card game.
Card game, okay.
And there's a ton of cards in the box.
There are 90 cards. I did look that up.
Lots of cards.
There's 90 cards in the box.
Yep. And this one is going to be a real stretch.
Yeah, this one is the one I was like, Barlow.
But it totally is. Totally is.
All right, so Unmatched.
All right, Unmatched. If you're not familiar with Unmatched, there is a board, and you get to play a character. This particular set, there are many expansions, a lot of different ones.
There's a lot, yeah.
This one just came out, Cobble and Fog. It's got Dracula, it's got Dr. Jekyll, it's got the Invisible Man, and it's got Sherlock Holmes. With these, a lot of them, they will also have allies that work with them. You get one figure that goes on the board, and like Dracula, it has the sisters. So you've got those tokens. They're like 3 tokens that move around the board, and they operate with you. The reason why this is a deck game, this is absolutely a card game. The minis represent what you are doing on the board, but that's all they do, like where you can go and who you can attack. Everything that happens as a result of the cards that you play. So you have a deck of cards, you draw a hand of cards, and you have to, and it's per character, but you have to choose what your characters do, where you're spending your cards, so that you can defeat your opponents. For example, you can play, there's attack cards, there's defense cards, there's ability cards, things that you can play out of sequence. You have to plan how you're going to play out, both in defending yourself and trying to attack your opponents based on what hand you draw with your card. Now, you also have to have your minis in a certain place on the board in order to make that happen, but you don't build the deck. The deck comes with the character, but the more you know about what the character's deck is comprised of, the better you'll be able to play that character. Because oh wait, I've got one card of this that does this thing for this character. Like there's Bruce Lee has an amazing, a single card that does an incredible damage attack. The Deadpool deck, by the way, the deck is what makes the Deadpool character amazing, because each one of the cards looks like they have been drawn on things, like he drew them himself, and they are hilarious. Like one of them, it says, "Oh, +5 to attack if your opponent's if your opponent's real name is Logan." It's, just very funny, very goofy stuff in there. But the cards make the game. They actually drive the engine of the game. And that is why, in my opinion, this can be played like a deck game, because the decks are what drives
it is the reason that you're playing the game.
Yes. So you may like the way that a certain deck plays. Whether or not that character feels like it or not is up to you. It's the way the certain decks, the way they play out, that's what you're going to choose from, not just, oh, hey, the models. Plus, the models are really cool. The Invisible Man in this one,
yeah,
is super cool.
And you can mix and match them, right?
Oh, you can match all of them.
It's all like Bigfoot. I think there's a Bigfoot.
Yes.
And Robin Hood and stuff.
Yep.
So you can. All right.
Just the other night, Deadpool fought Dracula. It was awesome.
Who won?
Deadpool. Yeah, come on, Deadpool. So that's if you don't think it's a deck game, let us know.
Let him know. Let him know.
Tell me.
Yeah, let him know.
All right, I know it's
because I agree with you. I think it's a stretch, but you made your,
Yeah.
you had, it wasn't like you were just like, this is a card game, deal with it.
Dungeons and Dragons is a card game.
Yeah, and you just said deal with it, right? You actually had like a thought process to it. You explained it.
This is the reason I saw it,
So
and that's the thing. That's the reason that I pulled that particular game was because when I think about, the experiences that I have when I play games, like the experience that I have playing that game is like a deck game. It's like a card game to me. That feels like it to me. So that's why I brought it up to play.
Okay.
That's my whole argument.
All right. Well, if you're interested in picking up any of these that Barlow's brought to our attention, you are please check your friendly local game store first. If they don't have it, you can check out Guardtower.com. I will leave the link in the description below. Also, if you enjoy these videos, please leave a like and subscribe. We genuinely do appreciate it. It really helps grow the channel with the YouTube algorithm and stuff like that, and that's what we're trying to do, right? Is grow the channel and try to make it the best we can. Barlow, I appreciate you doing that, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
No problem, man. All right, until next time, we'll see y'all around. Have a good